Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of Lionsgate Podcast with your two besties, Sahdi and Omni. I'm Omni, and this is my girl, Sahdi.
Hey, guys.
And this week, we're going to be talking about sex magic. I'm so excited about this.
Me too.
Okay, but before we get started, I wanted to say that sex magic is for everyone. If you are part of the alphabet mafia, if you are Christian, if you are atheist, it doesn't matter. This is all about energies and manifesting, so no shame here. Also, this is not an episode for people under 18, so if you have children in the car with you, turn this off and listen to it when you're alone, because we will be graphic. We're going to be talking about what sex magic is, BDSM, sexually stimulating herbs, say that 3 times fast, Taoism and breath control. And then Sahdi has a really special thing at the end where she's going to be talking about a step-by-step for her personal sexual spell. So keep a pen and paper nearby. And then I have like 4 different books we're going to reference throughout, so you can have references to go look through if you like what you hear. But before we get started on the episode, we are going to be doing our questions of the week, as always. So first, I will start with Sahdi. We had somebody write in and said, Sahdi, you talked about connecting with your higher self. I've been working on that. I go outside at night and literally lay down and start meditating. I don't know where to go from there. And this is something I've wondered too. So I'm super excited to hear you.
All right. So, thanks for writing in, first of all.
Absolutely.
So I've been tapping into my higher self for a really long time. So it's pretty easy for me to do it. It's kind of like trying to find a station on a really old radio. Remember the old radios where you could barely hear what was coming through? But once you got the station, you could hear it clearly. You could get it every single time.
Yeah.
You know, the younger kids might not remember those. That's kind of like how I reference it, like tuning in to my higher self. Yeah. It's a frequency and I know where it is, so I can hit it every single time. But for those of you, who haven't met their higher self yet, it's going to be more of a challenge. There are a lot of methods to finding your frequency. Psychedelics is one way also. And I know that's really taboo with a lot of people, but psychedelics, there are people that go to Peru and they stay with shamans for a week and they do ayahuasca to find their higher self. And you don't have to go through that extreme. You could, at home in a safe environment, take a little psilocybin and meditate on it. And you could possibly be able to find your frequency that way. Meditation, astral projection. We talked about finding it through lucid dreaming on the last episode.
Yeah, that's my goal.
Right. So, I would say to you, when you go outside and meditate, go in with the intention to meet your higher self and ask for her to present herself to you. Pay attention to everything around you when you meditate. Pay attention to the wind, the sound that the earth is making, the feelings that you get like inside of yourself and the voices in your head. Just like open yourself up and completely surrender to the process. Because when we descend into human form, we get amnesia and we forget that we're connected to something that's higher than ourselves. Yeah. But the cool thing about your highest self is you can never be disconnected from your higher self. You can forget, but it's always there.
It's like a pipeline.
Right.
Yeah. So you mean I have to try and be quiet? Tape my mouth shut.
Right. Sensory deprivation, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's another way. There are tanks that you can go into for an hour or 2 hours and it deprives your senses. So it's dark, so you can't see. It's set at the temperature of your body. And you can't hear anything. So it deprives all of your senses. And the only thing that you're left with is your consciousness. So that's another really good way to tap in.
I've totally heard of those and I've never done it.
So if you have a hard time meditating and you like water,
I love water
in the bath.
Yeah, that's my conduit.
Perfect for you. So, and people are like, oh, I'm claustrophobic. That would be really scary. There's a light that you can hit. You can open the door at any time and get out. You're not trapped inside of there. And so, just go check that out. It's also really good for your body and your joints. I'm going
to do this and then I'll do a check-in.
Feel good. Yeah. Let's do it together.
Yeah.
Let's go and then we'll talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do this. And if you've, if you have like a story about doing the not sleep deprivation, obviously.
No. I mean, that's another way. That's another way too. If you stay up for too long, your subconscious has to dream. Like you have to dream.
Yeah.
So if you keep yourself awake for a prolonged period of time, there's even some books out there that talk about astral projection through sleep deprivation.
What?
And your brain will start to dream while you're awake.
Is that why
It's not healthy. But you can do it. And you'll see images. If you stay up, you can look it up. If you're awake for 2 to 3 days in a row without any sleep, you will see hallucinations. You'll hallucinate.
Is that like when I'm really tired and I start to dream like before I'm actually asleep? Mm-hmm. You know, when you start.
Yeah, that's probably part of it. It's probably the onset of. Yeah, but that's kind of dangerous too. You could throw yourself into psychosis and all kinds of bad things could happen. So.
It's not recommended. We do not recommend that method. No. But it's there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, any more on that response? Yeah. Okay, so my next write-in question, and real quick, if you guys have a write-in question or you have a story you want to share with us about any of the topics that any of our episodes are on, feel free to hit us up on Facebook at Sahdi and Omni. Or you can do our Lionsgate podcast, which is also a page on Facebook. And then, or you can email us at sahdiandomni@gmail.com. That's SAHDIANDOMNI@gmail.com. And I did that without writing it down. Good job. Just because I'm dyslexic. So I'm scared I'm going to always mix them up. Okay, so the next write-in question was, Omni, you seem to know a lot about herbs. How did you get started? So I would like to put it out there that I am learning every single day, every single week. I don't know everything about anything. And as long as you go into any subject being like, I am a student and I always have something to learn, you are always winning at life. Like you were always succeeding. How I got started was I bought a few herb books, and the 2 first herb books that I bought was Herb Magic by Patty Wigington, and then The Modern Witchcraft Guide to Magical Herbs by Judy Ann Nock, Nock. And so what I liked about these, well, I mean, they were my first one. So I liked because it showed you what the medicinal use was for and then what the magical use was for. And I did want to say, I do talk about herbs a lot and teas a lot, but I want you to know that I will reference them out of books, or I will reference them from maybe the internet. I tend to like books because they're more reputable, but, not everything is for ingestion. So be careful. Do your research yourself. I'm not a doctor. So do your research. It's important. There were some things I didn't know you weren't supposed to ingest. And I was lucky enough to triple check myself and be like, oh, I mean, mandrake's kind of, what was it? Witch hazel. There's a lot of topical remedies for, beauty and skin with that. But if you ingest too much of it, like if you ingest a lot of it, I think you can take maybe a little bit, but you shouldn't. It's not good for your stomach and you can end up poisoning yourself. So just be cautious, be smart, friends. And then the third book I recommend is, I would get a local foraging book. So, we're out of Oregon. So Pacific Northwest foraging book, and look through that because then you get to see things like here in Oregon, they have rosemary growing everywhere, just at the parks. Lavender grows everywhere. And if you're in the Midwest, that stuff, I mean, they have it, I guess, but it's not everywhere like it is here. So just know your surroundings and you can get stuff for free a lot of the times just by going to the park or, well, not the park, but like, don't steal. Or if your friend has a rosemary bush, hey, can I steal some clippings? That's what I do. But yeah, so I recommend getting a couple of magical herb books. They're more reputable than anything you're going to find on the internet, and get a local foraging book. And that is it on that subject. That's how I got started. Oh, one more thing. I also, because I'm kind of forgetful, is I took my time with the books and wrote everything down on stickers and put them on the back of my jars of herbs. And I put on what was the magical use and what's the medicinal use. So magical is for ritualistic purposes. So then when I would go through my bottles, I would look at the back, and that's how I learned a lot and remember and retained a lot of what each one was because it was in my face. So if I want to make a tea, I'm like, well, I have a headache right now. And I'd go through all my bottles and look at the back and be like, okay, well, this helps with sinus. This helps with this. This is like an aspirin. And I slowly started to remember what was good for what. Like feverfew, I will never forget that helps with like allergies and headaches because I have headaches a lot. So anyways, let's jump up. Let's get to this sex. Let's talk about sex, baby. All right, Sahdi, what is sex? What is sex magic to you?
What is sex magic? Okay. So basically, sex magic is using your sexual energy and orgasms to manifest and cast spells. So you're casting spells on a desired outcome. If you practice witchcraft, a witch will raise her energy through a cone of power, and she'll build up her energy. And when it's at its highest point, she sends it through her body and into the cosmos, and basically into the universe.
My cone is thick as fuck.
Oh shit! Already
I got
getting
a thick
started.
Cone, okay. Oh, all the perverted jokes are coming out.
Right. And so the trick is, you can do sex magic by yourself, and you can use masturbation for that, or you can do it with a partner or partners.
Nice.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
So as you're doing that, you're focusing your intent in your mind's eye. So in your third eye, you're keeping the intent of what you want to manifest. You focus on your breath and you allow your mind and your soul to just like go wild with it, right? So you build up the sexual tension for as long as you can. And when you can't hold it back any longer, you allow yourself to orgasm. And as you do, you imagine your intention as a beam of light shooting out of the crown of your head and blasting off into the cosmos. So an orgasm is pretty powerful.
Yeah.
You know, so they're potent also. So you can pretty much manifest anything you want: money, power, a partner, or you can even send positive energy to someone who really needs it, like someone who desperately needs that kind of manifestation. You can manifest for someone else.
What if your grandma needs like help feeling better and you're masturbating? I wouldn't recommend that kind of magic for her.
Oh, no, I never even thought about that one.
Don't think about your grandma when you masturbate, you weirdos.
Oh my God.
No, healing energy to your boyfriend or something, or girlfriend. Or a friend, like your platonic friend.
Yeah.
But it would get a little weird if you get into the family.
Yeah,
there's other rituals for that, okay?
Right. We can send them protection and healing spells and teas that they can drink. Yeah, we'll just like leave that one alone.
Yes.
But you can do it for like the world, for the earth, or for, wars that are going on, or for, different things like that, like the kids that are suffering in other countries, or even here, you could like send that.
Keep it vague.
Like a positive energy out to that.
Yeah.
And so, you just pretty much think of an intention on what you want to manifest or connect to. And once your connection is set, you start the process of masturbation or sexual pleasure with your partner. And then try to stay in the energy for as long as you can, because you want that buildup, right?
Like edging?
Yeah, pretty much like edging, or just, let the buildup come. You're not trying to just have an orgasm in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The buildup is part of it.
Not if you want magic. Magic takes longer than 30 seconds.
Yeah, but the orgasm's better when you build up to it. You know what I mean? So you want to have as much power and momentum behind it as you possibly can. Yeah. So, so you continue connecting to your intent while you're in the buildup, right? And then once you do have the orgasm, you just let it pulsate out of your body and into the universe.
Like shockwaves.
Yeah, like shockwaves, just, And so, and then pretty much when you're done, you also have to talk about aftercare. Yeah. Because once you've done something that powerful, you need to sit with yourself for a few minutes after and still hold that intent within you as your heart's slowing down. Yeah. And your blood pressure is going down and everything's starting to settle back in. Keep the intent. And then when you feel completely at peace, thank yourself. Because that's really important, like say thank you to yourself, say thank you to your partner. Yeah. If you called in a deity or a god to help you with that spell, casting that intention, thank your deities, your ancestors, like whatever it was that you were working. Right. Don't forget to say thank you.
Don't be rude to
have
yourself
gratitude
either.
for it, because at that point, it's already sent out to the universe and it's going to happen. You know, it's going to manifest. So say thank you.
It is important to say thank you on everything. Just like even for your food. You don't have to like, you know, even if you're, I mean, I know that's like really common practice in Christianity to thank God for food, but why don't you thank like the universe, thank the chicken, you know, I think that's really important because I think it's very hard to remember that and to be grateful and to have gratitude.
Right.
And it does feel good. I don't know. It feels good to say, I feel like that brings in positivity in your life. It leaves room within you for that positive energy to flow in when you are grateful for things.
And it's kind of hard too, because like, this might be too much information, but we are talking about sex
we're
magic.
Getting down
so
and dirty.
when I'm with my partner and I have amazing sex and I have an amazing orgasm, like I always tell him thank you. I tell him I love him.
I don't
and
say
I tell him
thank you, but I say you're amazing.
Right. Or, you know, like give them gratitude in some way. You don't have to say thank you, but I do. Like, I'm like, thank you for, you know, because I feel thankful and like let them know that I love them and, you know, things like that. But when I masturbate, I don't really think to say thank you.
I don't either.
You know what I mean?
I'm like, it's time to go to work now.
Right?
Yeah, that stresses out.
But they're saying like most
Everybody wonders why I'm always so happy.
Most people that masturbate, like literally less than 15 minutes from beginning to end.
Yeah.
They quickly just get it done. So I wouldn't say try to do sex magic and energy like that.
Right.
I mean, you can hold on to a thought and you can use your orgasm for it.
If you have time.
We're talking a little bit, you know, I think with what we're talking about, we're going to get a lot deeper.
Yeah.
Into the magic part of it.
Yeah. Because a lot of times when you're just trying to get a release, when you think about masturbating with yourself, it's just trying to get that release out. You know, so you got a goal and your goal is to release. It's not to make it a big thing. And it doesn't always have to be, but it is important to know that it can be.
Right.
And that you can set your intentions and get it done. One of the books I wanted to reference today was called The Alchemy of Sexual Energy by, I'm going to spell his name or her name because I'm going to butcher it. Mantak and last name Chia. Don't come for me. Because you'll hurt my feelings. Anyways, so this book, I didn't even get front to back, but from what I have, just a kind of like an overview, talks about Taoism. Am I saying that right? Because I swear I want to say Taoism every time. It's not how you say it, Ashley. Okay, so sex organs generate more chi energy than any other organ, and but the problem is that they don't maintain that energy. So part of me when I was reading through this was like, oh, I wonder if that's why people get stuck in like sexual addiction. And I'm not like talking about Tiger Woods being like, I'm a sex addict. It's like, no, dude, you just cheated. Shut up. I'm talking about the people that really get stuck in the compulsion of having that release and that dopamine and that energy, which is like, Taoists call it the life force, you know, your life force is from that climax and that's the power. So you really need to learn how to maintain that energy and turn it into healing energy, or whatever you want, manifestation. You have to learn to channel it up through your body. That's what the rest of the book is talking about. But this part, I just thought that was interesting because it really resonated because you think about, it does make sense. That's where you get all this energy and you get, the buildup and it is magical and there is like.
Did they talk about chakras at all in that book?
Yes, they do talk
because when you're dealing with orgasm, like you're dealing with the lower 3 chakras mostly. And so it's good to pay attention to your lower chakras probably before you even get started. Maybe do a quick like 15-minute meditation on your lower chakras. Right. Yeah, probably. That's probably a really good idea. Yeah. Let's see. It talked about how you leak your energy too. Okay. So to keep your chi high, you know, meditation and, you know, being able to channel that energy up and work with your chakras, but you leak it through, negativity. And then another one off the top of my head was, reproductive system. So like, you know how when women are on their period and they're just so fatigued and it's a symptom of being on your period, but think about it energetically, like,
you're leaking your chi is
Right.
what the Taoists believe. So you can have, they talk about like, you can have lots of sex, and they talk about, men learning breathing techniques, to have as little orgasms as possible.
Mm-hmm. They even have like restrictions in some religions and some cultures where the men don't orgasm at all, and they build up that chi energy, and then it causes a kundalini.
Yeah.
It's a kundalini experience. Oh my gosh, I can't say it.
You guys got it. It's fine.
Right.
I can't say it either, so
Kundalini experience.
I'm like Kool-Aid.
Where, and you know what the kundalini is, right? It's kind of like a snake curled up at the base of your spine, an energetic snake.
Yeah.
And then it bursts up and out of your crown chakra.
Right.
So it just energetically charges every one of your chakras. And so it's kind of like a reverse orgasm.
Mm-hmm.
With some men will report back and say that it just felt like something, an energetic ball of energy just shot. Instead of coming out of them, it shot up through them.
So it was like a
and
charge up. Like they were 100%, they were 100%, like a battery, like a phone.
Mm-hmm.
You are 100%. Your battery's at 100%.
Right. And it's a whole spiritual experience.
Yeah. Well, in my familiar book, which I don't have in front of me, one of my favorite books, I'll have to reference it some other time, it talks about how Catholics, how female... What am I thinking?
Nuns?
Nuns. Oh my gosh. I'm like, the female priest.
Pretty
Nuns.
much.
Yeah. Why they are committed to God is because the abstinence, increases their line to source, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of, so talking about that. But I think the chi on this is talking about controlling the orgasm for the man.
Okay.
And then it's working on women having multiple orgasms and being in control of being able to have multiples. They talk about the egg with a string that they insert into the vagina. I'm like, oh, the Kegel thing. And I was talking about at work today, and they go, oh, you mean for Kegels? Oh, hold on.
Oh, but there's like a whole thing
There's so
to that
much,
too.
yeah.
There are actually like 3 different muscles within the vagina, right? So you could have one part of your muscle that's kind of doing like a suctioning action.
Yep.
And you could have another one that's kind of like pulsating. So when you're having sex, your partner would be able to feel every single muscle within your vagina doing different things at the same time.
So I am fucking bomb at that. Let me just say. I looked over at my partner and was like, do you think I need that? And he's like, fuck no.
But it's not just for your partner. That's for yourself too, because it really does. When you have that muscle control, it makes your orgasms more intense and more powerful for yourself. So even when you're doing the exercises as a female, you're contracting your muscles within inside, and you're going to get horny. I don't care who you are.
You do.
You know what I mean? You want to have sex. So it's building that chi energy within your body, just thinking about it and moving your muscles around.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're at work just doing Kegels, and you're like, damn, can I go home now? Hold on.
I got a story. I got to share this real quick. Okay. So I was bartending, and this girl was being trained as a server, and she was not cut out for serving. So she quit shortly after this, but she comes up to me and she was just so shy and so meek. And I'm like, why did you ever think you would ever want to be a server? And she looked at me and she whispers and puts her hand up so nobody could see what she's saying to me. And she's like, she whispers, do you have a tampon? And I just straight face looked at her and was like, no, I just Kegel that shit shut. I don't use tampons. And she goes, what? And I was like, Kegel. And I just kind of tossed my hand, shoot her, very nonchalantly. It was like, yeah, just look it up, Google it. And I just went on like it was normal. Like everybody does this and she didn't know this. So, and then she quit shortly after that. So she didn't find out that I fuck with people and that I was joking with her. So this pure little innocent girl is probably Googling Kegels and working really hard for the rest of her life to not have to buy tampons because she thought I was being serious. No, I just Kegel that shit shut.
Right.
No, I don't need tampons. I'm so strong.
I don't know if I'd want to get that strong.
No, right? You're still your vagina shut.
I don't even know if your man would like that.
No, I would not.
That would probably be painful, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Hell.
Okay, moving on.
Oh my God, yeah. Moving on. Okay. You can have lots of sex, but learn to transfer it and use that energy. Otherwise, it will quickly drain out and be wasted. And we don't like waste. Right. So we talked about purification, not necessarily ritual, but like, I mean, not a specific ritual, but like different methods of purification before you go into this, because there is a lot of trauma to do with sex. There is a lot of shame when it has to come to sex.
So anytime you're going to do a sex ritual,
right,
I would recommend that you do some kind of releasing spell ahead of time. Because what I like to do is take a shower. And while I'm in the shower, I tell myself mantras like, I want to let go of my sexual trauma. I want to let go of, my...
whatever.
Whatever it is, like whatever's holding me back, whatever kind of scars that I have.
And like be empowered. Yeah, I want to.
And so I want to just like release, I want to release any kind of negative attachments that I have towards sex.
Yeah.
From my energetic field before I jump into sex magic. Because even if I'm feeling good and I have all the herbs and I have the whole house just like ready for me to do this magic, but I'm holding on to some residual energy of shame or guilt or anything like that, that's going to transfer over into my spell. Yeah,
because there is a lot of shame around like masturbation and sex in general, promiscuity and like how women being virgins, that was just like such shit.
Right. And then, men get it too.
Absolutely.
We all do. Unless, for some reason we've just been blessed to not have any sexual trauma in our lives, and if you're like that, like God bless you.
Yeah.
Really. But I haven't personally met anybody that doesn't have something.
I haven't either.
That's attached to some kind of sexual trauma or guilt or, like we've hurt people or people have hurt us or made us feel stupid about something or, even things that we tell ourselves, it doesn't even have to be what anybody's done to us, because as people, we will do that to ourselves. We'll think that our body isn't beautiful or, I went through a long period of time where I was like watching porn and like other things like that. And like, I didn't look like that. And I was like, is there something wrong? And so I even had like some kind of like, embarrassment with my own body.
Yeah. Especially when you have kids, your body changes so much and you really talk yourself into thinking that you're not beautiful. There was this, special, Sex, Love and Goop, and I loved it. So if you haven't checked it out, it's on Netflix. It's amazing because it really talks about self-love and look at yourself in the mirror naked and look at all the stuff on your body that you can't think about something you don't like. You think about what you do like. Or like, okay, I have stretch marks from having kids, and you look at your stretch marks and you think about where they come from and why you have them and why they're beautiful.
Right.
And then and it's a self-love, ritual, and you should do it like every time you get out of the shower. And I have done it and it has helped me. And as much as I exude confidence, I hear that like, you're so confident. I'm like, you don't even know what's on in my head. Like, thank you. But like, no, I am.
And so just like that. So whatever it is, before you go into doing any of these spells, like you just need to kind of release.
Yeah.
And we're not asking you to get into like sexual shadow work.
Yeah.
We're going to do an episode in the future all about shadow work. And I think that I want to put sexual shadow work into that.
I think that's
because
important.
A lot of people think, shadow work is just things that happen to you when you were a kid. It could have happened to you a year ago, as an adult too. And there's sexual trauma and things like that connected.
Right.
But just do a little ritual to just kind of release anything that's holding you back. And then you can get started on your spell.
Right. Even if you're just feeling blah or negative.
Yeah.
I like to, when I take showers or I take baths a lot, I say, I'm going to go jump in the shower and then I'm in the bath for 3 hours.
Right.
It's me time. When the water's going down the drain, I like to think of all the impurities pulling out of my pores. You taught me this actually. Right. All the impurities pulling out of my pores and going down the drain. And when you shower, same thing. It's all washing down. If you really envision it, the intention, it works. It's how energy works. So I would say do it that way. We were talking about that frozen experiment. Cause this kind of goes into that, intentions, where there was this frozen experiment where they would take water and put it into a cup and then they would write love on it. And then they would speak into the cup and be like, I love you. I love you. I love you. And then they would freeze it. Then they had another cup and they put hate on it. And they'd be like, speaking like, I hate you. You're ugly. And like all these negative things. And they freeze it. And then they go under a microscope and they would look at this water, and the water crystals would be so incredibly different. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about this, and Sahdi was saying,
the ones with love, it looked like sacred geometry and just these beautiful patterns,
like
and the way that it would
snowflake.
crystallize. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And then with hate,
it was like brownish, and it was so
it just looked
fascinating,
deformed, and it looked ugly.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you were saying we're like 70-75% water as people, as our avatars, our bodies. So could you imagine, like, if you're like in a tantric position with your partner and you're just saying, I love you. I love you. I love, like, how first of all, that's gonna manifest such great things for them. But like, how therapeutic would that be?
Right.
To just have them look in your eyes and say, I love you over and over and over again.
And to take that in.
Yeah.
While they're looking you in your eyes and just hearing them say, you are beautiful. You are loved. I love you. Like all of those things, you know, and if you don't have a partner to do that with, you can hold a mirror.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't think about a mirror.
Be naked in your own energy, you know, before you start the ritual. You want to prepare yourself in any way that you can. You want to, if you feel sexy in lingerie, get some lingerie.
Yes.
Go out and buy yourself some roses, like get candles, clean your room, because you want to have like a really like clean environment. And if you don't have a room to do it in, rent an Airbnb at the beach, spend the weekend. I mean, you can make this as elaborate as you want to.
That's such a good idea.
You can just do a few hours in your own room doing this spell, or you can actually take a trip somewhere, fly
or in
to
the
Hawaii,
bathtub.
The bathtub.
Yeah.
Like, you can make it as elaborate as you want.
Yeah.
Get creative with it because it's your sex magic spell.
Yeah.
So whatever makes you feel
do your hair
sexy,
and makeup.
Right. Or
manscape.
Exactly.
If you want.
Right. So whatever makes
fine.
you feel like that. And to have if you're having a partner with you, that would be a really good idea, is look into tantric methods and things like that, and actually practice some of those things before you get started with your ritual.
Right.
Just, telling each other things like that. And if you don't have anybody, like I said, look in a mirror, tell it to yourself, say it out loud.
It's important. Yeah, it's important. It's really empowering to do it for yourself too. Okay, so one of the other books I wanted to reference is Sex, Sorcery, and Spirit by Jason Miller. Thank you for having a basic white boy name so I can pronounce it. It talks about a ton of breathing techniques. They're very, very, very detailed, so you're just going to have to read the book. But we'll go through some purification meditation. So it's called the White Star Purification Meditation. Step 1, begin with the breath purification. Step 2, visualize a star above your head. Arising from the star, you should see two beings emerging, a god and a goddess. However you see them, they just must be in a sexual embrace, regardless of your sexual orientation. To begin the purification, this is step 3, you should make a mental confession to the god or goddess pair arising from your star center. An admission of ways that you have fallen from your own ideals and lowered your own mind to be obscured. So releasing whatever you're going through. So for me, I'm like, I don't always like the way I like my curves most of the time, but some days I'm like, ugh, I feel fat, so that's something I fight within myself, where I don't feel sexy because I'm like, ugh, I'm just too heavy right now. I don't fit in the clothes I want to fit in right now. So that would be something. And then the deity pair engage in sexual union and filter the subtle beams of light from the enlightenment field into their sexual fluids. And then it goes on to talk about how their fluids, how you're imagining this, their fluids are just kind of cleansing you. And step 5 is see all the black oil flowing down from you and dripping out. So their fluids are going onto you, and they're basically pulling all of the negative thoughts out of you. And then you are just like, it's kind of like a baptism. Okay. The way I took it, it seemed.
So the nectar of the gods having sex together are causing a vibration or an energy to wash over you.
Exactly.
And then it's pulling your impurities from yourself, your negative thought patterns.
Yeah. And especially if you're pagan and you work with certain deities, like that would be perfect to pick them and make sure you thank them at the end. That's not in the book, but I think that's important. Make sure you thank them at the end. And, I thought that was pretty cool because it kind of talks about another way to do like a cleansing. Because you can't really go into doing a powerful spell if you have that shadow self stuck to you. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, and then they talk about, masturbating magic. It lowers blood pressure, releases endorphins, helps with stress, helps with sleep. With men, studies have shown it's helped with UTIs, and prostate cancer. Men and women, it helps your pelvic floor. We already kind of talked about as his releases oxytocin. Yeah, and dopamine. I'm bad with like all the names of drugs. I'm like, oxycodone. Your body releases? No, that's not the right. But yeah, so like if you're by yourself, you're in the bath or whatever, like it's important to do that cleansing. I know you were talking about, not that long ago, you were telling me the story about this girl who masturbation where she had like.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I did a reading for a lady that was married to her husband for like 20 something years. Mm-hmm. And, the whole time they were married, he was like super abusive. And she brought up the fact that she wasn't allowed to masturbate because that was a form of cheating in his eyes. So a few years into the relationship, he caught her masturbating and I guess he beat her up. Like he was that.
Fuck that dude.
Much of an asshole, right? And he put it in her head that like her pleasuring herself was a form of cheating on him. And so she was only allowed to have an orgasm when she was with him. So then they were married for like another, 18, 20 something years and she never did. And so when she came to me and got the reading, it was like, a year or so after the divorce and, she still hadn't masturbated. Because every time she would try to, she would have just such guilt and fear within her that she just couldn't do it. And she was like, I just don't even want to have sex anymore. I'm not worried about men. I don't want to masturbate anything. And so that was brought up briefly in our reading. And I had given her a spiritual bath to take home for many different reasons. But she called me a few days later and she really was having a hard time struggling to get the words out on what had happened in that bath. And she said that during the bath, it felt like almost like a goddess or something higher than herself was touching her on places of her body. And they were like, you are loved, you are beautiful, and just making her feel so accepted and wanted and desired, you know? And she said that she masturbated for the first time in almost 20 years in the bath. And she said it was the best experience that she's ever had. And she broke through barriers within that.
Could you imagine, like, if he only let her have sex with him, then how much of an object you would feel like? Right. You don't feel desired, you feel used.
Exactly.
Like, that's
and they had been divorced for a year and they hadn't had sex even longer before that. And she, even though they weren't together, she still couldn't bring herself to touch herself.
Yeah, because she's traumatized.
So.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. You get your orgasm, girl. You get it. That's awesome. We talked about, when we talked about what is sex magic, we kind of talked about how, doing a spell and setting an intention. It's pretty common throughout, a lot of different books I've read, but this one also, the Sex, Sorcery, and Spirit book references the sigil spell, which is basically, if you're having trouble with, I think if grandma's sick and you want to use this for her, instead of thinking of grandma's face, you can just, put the intention to a sigil. You can Google how to make a sigil. They're super easy. It's all about intention. Basically, you say a couple sentences of an intention, or you could do a whole spell and you make it into a sigil, which is like a symbol that represents that spell or that word or that sentence or whatever into that sigil. So basically the idea of it gets trapped into the sigil. And then as you are climaxing, you are thinking of the sigil. So you're not like getting hung up on grandma's face, you know,
or a full mantra or something like that.
You're not getting distracted because I know for me, especially if you're like, okay, there's sick kids in Africa, you can't think of that. Like that's separate. So, to keep the idea abstract to focus enough to be able to get there, maybe having the idea in a sigil would help. And so you can still do a broad spectrum of different intentions. But the idea of that is when you climax, you are giving birth, which this is from the other book, but from your life force to that intention. And that's why it's so powerful. And that's why I always think of shockwaves from like the atomic bomb, you know, I'm sure I've seen that in a movie when a girl orgasms, the atomic bomb goes off. You see like shockwaves, but that's how it feels. Especially like when a guy comes, you could feel pulsating. It's that energy, you know, it's like, you know, you go into even like a dance club, and I know like people aren't usually having sex on a dance club, but it's that energy. You can feel it in the air, and yeah, it's powerful. So we were talking earlier about, you were talking about the scene at like a Burning Man.
Okay. So I was researching and I came across, this article that was talking about in ancient Egypt, they used to have this festival. It was once a year, and it was where everybody would just drink, and not just drink until they're drunk. They drink until they're passed the fuck out.
I've been there.
And so sometimes, and it was everywhere from the elites and the pharaohs all the way down to the common people. Everybody did this festival celebration, right? It was called the Drunken Festival. And they would sometimes have it in their homes, or they would have it in temples, or they would go out in the middle of the desert and just have this elaborate festival out there. It reminded me of like Burning Man.
Yeah.
Right? And so everybody would drink. They had these naked women only wearing flowers in their hair that would come around and serve drinks to everyone.
Hell yeah.
And it was just really, it wasn't like, you know, you go to a bar and you're having drinks.
They're not like Bud Light girls.
Right. This whole thing was based on sexual magic. So you're with the people that you love. You're in your community of friends and family, and everybody's having a good time. They're drinking, they're having sex, they're cuddling. And this is, oh, that scared me. Your lights just
my lights went out.
So anyway, during the festival, everybody is just, so instead of going to your priest, during this festival, you are actually meeting your own deities. And so that leads me to believe, because back in Egypt, they used to have psychedelics there too. They would grow it on barley. And so they also made beer with barley. So it kind of coincides, and it didn't really say in the article, but I'm thinking that if you're going to be meeting your deities from drinking the substance, that it could be laced with some psychedelics.
Yeah, I would think so.
And so everybody has sex, and they're just like connecting with their higher powers and deities and gods and stuff like that. And then everybody passes out. Right. Because everybody's just fucked up.
Right.
And so like you just see mounds of people just cuddled on top of each other or whatever. And that once they wake up to the priest, coming around with drums and waking them up and asking them to speak what they want for the year. Into existence, right? So everybody has a chance then to say what they want for the year. So they've already completed this entire ritual, and then
So they're manifesting in a really powerful way. That's freaking awesome. So it kind of okay. So I used to be in an open marriage, and so we did some lifestyle stuff. Which was, I love that I did that then. It's not me now. I'm in a monogamous, happy relationship, happy for it, but I'm happy that I got to explore that part of myself, because the energy is really cool. And I don't think I could find the energy in myself and with my partner if I hadn't gone through that.
Right.
And they would have like BDSM, cause you talked about aftercare, and with BDSM, you know, aftercare is like a really important part of a scene. And the bigger part, I think, is trust.
Right.
So you have to feel safe in the environment you're in.
And that's another thing too, like feeling safe with your partner. If you're not going to do this sex magic by yourself, the person or the people that you're with, you have to really be able to fully trust them. And there has to be consent, because like I could go home to my man and be like, babe, let's do this like sex magic thing. And if he's not 100% into it, I shouldn't force him to do it.
Yeah.
You know, and some people might like, we're manifesting this house that we both want. You should do this spell with me.
Right.
It's going to hinder the spell.
Yeah.
You know, so
if they're uncomfortable,
if anybody's uncomfortable in the situation, you know, But with BDSM, like, you really have to have a lot of trust in your partner to even get into role playing and breath play and some of the things that, the kinks that BDSM have and stuff like that.
I actually met a dominatrix. Okay, so one of the girls I was friends with, through that community, she's a dominatrix, and I went to her house and she was like, "Do you want to see my toys?" And at the time I was like, I'm not into BDSM because I kind of pigeonholed it. And she also was an instructor and she taught me so much about it. And she's like, "Okay, so when somebody gets spanked, why do you think they like to be spanked?" And I'm like, "Cause they kind of like the pain, you know, like I kind of like that." And she's like, "Well, when you spank or you slap somebody's arm, the blood rushes up to the skin and then the skin's more sensitive to touch." And she really talked about breath play, like, and then she had like a little shocker thing. And it wasn't necessarily for like on the vagina, but like around the legs and stuff. That was pretty cool. But then she was also into blood play. That's not me. I found my line. And her girlfriend, at the time was also a doctor. And so they had like some cool, like she had this like spike glove that she's like, yeah, if I smack her arm with it, it's a bunch of dots of blood. And I love that. And I was like, I'm good on that. But she was so respectful, and the consent with everything made me feel, even though I wasn't comfortable with like the idea of, I was a little uncomfortable, and I'm somebody that's pretty comfortable in most environments because I felt like I was going to be forced into something, and I wasn't. She literally checked in on me every step of the way. I didn't really know her like that. I knew of her. This is the first time I've been to her house, and she's showing me her toys with no expectations. But because she was so respectful, she didn't double ask me for things. If I said no, she listened.
And that's what you have to do. Like whenever you're going to do, especially a spell like this, you have to be comfortable with the other person. Talking about blood, when it comes to doing sex magic spells, bodily fluids are usually incorporated within the spell. Yeah. So whether you're using blood or vaginal fluid or sperm, or, you know, even spit or anything like that, a lot of people will use that because they say that it amplifies the spell itself. No, like, so let's say you're having a candle. You could put the candle inside yourself or use some of your own fluids or your spit or something like that. A lot of men will use their semen to kind of anoint the candle. Yeah. Or to put it on their petition. So we'll talk about that later when I read my spell.
Your spell, which we should actually, let me get into, I wanted to go over some herbs real quick. So, one of my herb books that I got was Herb Magic by Patty, Wingington. And these are herbs to do, and this is a handful. There's so many. These are just a handful I picked out, to do with sex that you can use. So like yarrow is used for lust and psychic powers. So I think you could use that to kind of connect with your partner. So I would use that with a partner. Patchouli is lust. I hate the smell of patchouli. It makes me nauseous to my stomach.
Doses, it is powerful.
I was pregnant one time and this lady with a bunch of it hugged me and it made me so sick. So, mandrake.
Somebody was, sorry to interrupt you, but somebody was telling me like, what kind of oils do you use to keep someone away from you?
I said patchouli.
I always say
that too.
Use that
patchouli because it's gross. But I'm sorry, not to judge anybody that wears it, but me personally, I don't like it.
If you put too much on, it's gross.
I can't.
Just a little tiny bit, it's good.
It's strong. I mean, I have it and I use it in teas, but I definitely dress it up with other stuff that's more floral. All right. So mandrake, do not ingest, is for lust. So I know you asked me, well, if you don't ingest it, what do you use it for? Cause a lot of these I use for teas. You can put it in a little satchel and put it under your pillow. You can, burn it. You just can't take it in a tea. You'll die probably. So, High John the Conqueror was lust and sexuality. That's used a lot in hoodoo. And then for the other book is The Modern Witchcraft Guide to Magical Herbs by Judy Ann Knock. Allspice is used to increase anything, along with dragon's blood does too. So add those two for any spell and they increase them. Saffron improves mood, sexual function, and libido. Bloodroot strengthens relationships. So if you're like struggling with your man or vice versa, then bloodroot would work, to help kind of bond that back together. Broom, which is, Sidious, Scoprius. I am totally misspelling that. But it's a conduit to euphoria. And I also have other herbs that I'm using to make TikToks on our TikTok. We have a TikTok now, so Sahdi and Omni on TikTok, where I will show these and I will show more. So you can see how they're spelled. Coriander is an attraction. Damiana. We were drinking that tonight too, by the way. I made us some tea. That is a huge one for women. Devil's Claw helps to attract. And then there's some kitchen herbs with like garlic, saffron, black pepper. Those are all aphrodisiacs. And then the common one, and my basic white bitch is screaming, cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, and ginger. So get you some, and pumpkin seeds.
That's funny. Some of that is in my spell,
in your spell. Yeah. Okay. So let's hear this because we're getting close to the end and this is important. So get your pencils out.
All right. So, first of all, you want to gather your ingredients, and I personally use basil, bay leaves, cinnamon, rosemary, lavender, lemon zest, rose petals, catnip, and damiana. I wrote out why they're all important, but you're just going to have to do the research yourself because we're kind of running out of time and I want to get this spell out to you. And if you don't have all the ingredients, you can, take some out. You don't have to have every one of them, but this is what I personally use for my sex magic spells.
Right.
And you take all these ingredients and you mix them up in a bowl. And I like to charge them with my sexual energy. Right. So you feel the sexual energy within yourself. You've already, put yourself built your altar and have your candles lit, and you put all of your ingredients in a bowl and you pretty much just turn on the ingredients with your fingers.
You finger fuck them.
You pretty much finger fuck your ingredients, right?
Awesome.
You want to activate the ingredients, right? And then you want to burn them like an incense. So I use hot coal in my cauldron. If you don't have a cauldron, you could use a frying pan if you need to.
Okay.
And you want to burn the herbs and let them smolder like an incense.
I never thought of that, a frying pan. That's genius.
Right. And then you want to make your petition because you want to have a goal in mind and you want to set the intention. So I'm just going to read you my personal mantra of what I speak to myself and what I write down on my paper. So I write, sexual pleasure is a sacred gift that I deserve to receive. I honor the goddess within me. I honor my divine feminine being. I am the burning alchemy of fire. I am the forces of wind. I am the mystery of ether. I am a reflection of the sun. I am mirrored by the moon, and I radiate sexual energy. I manifest attracting anything I desire into my life with ease. My orgasms are energetically charged and vibrate at the frequency of positivity, passion, gratitude, and abundance. And then I put, I manifest, you fill in the blank on what it is that you want into my life today. Ashe, ashe. And so when you're making a petition, you always want to say it in the present moment.
Right.
Not like I want this or I'm trying to get this. You say, I am this.
Yes.
I am manifesting. This is what I am receiving right now.
Yeah.
And then I read it out loud as many times as I can. And then I fold it up and I burn it with my candles and I throw it into the ashes of the herbs that I was smoldering.
So what do you do with the ashes when you're done?
I dispose of them in different ways.
Yeah.
It depends on kind of like what my spell is. Sometimes I'll save them, and then sometimes I'll dispose of them in a river, or if I want the spell to grow, I'll make a hole in my backyard and I'll bury it so it can slowly grow.
That's smart. I didn't think about that. I would think about burying stuff as in like putting.
So that's for a spell if you want slow growth. Yeah. But I do it in the fire. Like I just, do it in the fire and have it, ashes, and then it's pretty much dead after that.
Okay.
Because you want it to come really fast to you. I mean, you're about to have an orgasm. So you want this spell to hit right now. You don't want it to hit a week from now.
Yeah.
You want instant gratification with your spell.
Yeah. Because usually when if I do a spell, I did a karmic spell not too long ago, and I took the leftovers from the candle and the paper and stuff, and you can put it in the freezer to do a freezer spell. I don't like that shit in my freezer.
Right.
I don't like, my freezer's not that big, so so I actually was gonna throw I was actually going to bury it, but then I was like, you know what? I don't want this presence next to my house, and I don't want to bury it somewhere else. And so I put it in the trash and let landfill bury it, and it worked so fucking well. The woman was being just nasty, horrible to my friend, and she ended up going home sick the next day. Not that I'm trying to get anybody sick. It was a karmic spell. So I just want to bring the universe.
But different spells, you do different things. So if you're trying to manifest a new home, that might take some time. So you do this big energetic spell, and then you can plant it instead of lighting it on fire.
Maybe plant it
outside.
Seeds.
Plant it with seeds. Plant it.
We have a garden. Plant it in our garden.
Plant it near the house that you want, the area that you want. And you can use different things with spells too. So say that you're trying to manifest a house and you have this house in mind. Yeah. Go to the house. Take pictures of the house because you can put that on your shrine. Yeah. So say you're manifesting. Let's just use that as an example with my spell. You take a picture of the house that you want. Go to the property and take some of the dirt from the property because then you're connecting yourself to that energy. Well, if the house is up for sale anyway, nobody's going to care if you come by and take a little dirt from,
like, you weirdo.
Well, whatever. It'll work.
Weirdo or that's about to own this house.
Or if you're trying to make money, go get some dirt from the bank. Or if you're trying to win in court, get some courthouse dirt.
That's so, you're so, I love this.
You want to
take this.
Right. So, there's a lot of things when it comes to your spells, but basically with sex magic, you're just setting the intent. You're feeling sexy. You're feeling confident. You're loving yourself. You're getting rid of the negative vibrations that could be around you. And then you make it your own.
So when you burn the stuff that's left over, throwing it, maybe putting it down the disposal would be fine with the leftover ashes.
I usually sprinkle mine outside.
Yeah, I would say.
I have bushes and grass and things like that. Yeah. And I just take the ash and I sprinkle it and kind of give it back to the earth.
Yeah, I think that
because
sounds
the spell's
better.
Over at that point.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, we're hitting close to our hour mark. We did do, from last week's episode, we did a 30-day lucid dream challenge where we talked about techniques about lucid dreaming. I was going to talk real quick about a few road bumps, but I've been mostly successful. First step for me is actually remembering my dreams. I've used the technique, where I don't reach for my phone first thing in the morning, and that's helped tremendously.
I'm so proud of you.
I know. And I did a couple of, like you talked about, jot down a few details about it, like, green dog, whatever.
Right.
And I did, and that helped me remember that dream. And then I had, where you brought up the technique that I thought was genius, that every time you touch a door, you say, am I dreaming? And so it makes your mind more aware so that when you're dreaming, you realize, yeah, you're dreaming because you say it when you touch the door. Am I dreaming? Well, for me, I have ADHD, and for all my ADHD babies out there that forget stuff like this, and I think about it, but I don't think about it when I'm touching the door. So I was going to for this week, put up little sticky notes that say, am I dreaming, on all my doors, so that I remember to prompt my mind, am I dreaming? I remembered a dream from last night in super big detail. I also took, not ashwagandha, Harataki. I took that, and my personal experience is that it really did help.
I'm going to take that with you this week. I'm going to start this week and start taking it too. And if anybody out there is listening, is doing the 30-day challenge with us, lucid dreaming challenge with us, write in and let us know how it's going with you too.
Yeah, and we'll read it on air because we want to do check-ins each week. But all right, so this concludes our very awesome sex episode. That was so amazing. Next week, tune in for next week, and we're going to talk about our past, our path, and our present. And we just ask that you guys keep your minds open. And we thank you. Remember, we got to thank people.
Right. Thank you.
All right. See you next week.
Namaste.